Well, so let's continue from knight d2 here. Normal developing move and bishop c5. So black also continue his natural plan and natural developing move and take pressure on the bishop on e3 because we are in pin. And just the same motif like in before, castle is the precise move because of course we don't come back with the queen to protect the bishop. That will be simply very, very slow and not a dynamic play. So castle, bishop takes e3 and knight f3 is a nice intermediate move. Now rook fe1 wouldn't be good because black has a great counterplay after that with d4 and suddenly he is winning. Let's see why he is winning. Because okay, there is a horizontal threat, so queen takes e5, knight takes e5, f takes e3. And why is it losing? Because d takes c3, b takes c3, and black has a healthy pawn up, rook c8 or anything. So this is just not working at all. F takes e3 also not the best because queen e3 check, king h1 and just not king h1 because queen d2 is even worse, rook f2 and simply castle. And okay, we will take the d5 but also black has a pawn up. So f takes e3 is also not working, so knight f3 is the question. Queen d6, yeah, because bishop takes f2 would be winning one more pawn, but rook takes, the queen goes somewhere, for example d6, and yeah, rook e1 check. If the king moves, that's not really good, and if knight e7 is also not good at all because rook fe2 and simply double here. So always we experience that the activity and the development is usually more important than a pawn. Here also come back with queen d6 and then castle quickly is more important than win one more pawn, because he will be simply in trouble then. So queen d6, rook fe1. Of course, I continue with the developing move, not f takes e3 because then the pawn structure is ugly. Just take it back. Still black is a pawn up, but we have kind of compensation for it. So this is still fine. Rook fe8, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, rook d1. And I think here we can just say that white has enough compensation. Probably with very precise play it will be approximately equal, but white doesn't have any problem. For example, knight e5 was going on with the play, queen d5 takes, knight f3, g takes f3. No problem the double pawn here, because we don't want to create passed pawn on the king side, so for defending is completely okay. And a4, king f8, equal rook endgame. But with the correct play it is completely normal. Alright, so let's go back to the queen e2 position and knight b6. E6 was that which we saw now, and bishop takes d5, e takes d5. So knight b6 tempo, bishop goes to b3 and pawn d3. Yes, also this move, otherwise white is too fast. So for example, kind of knight c6. How about if he plays a developing move? It's also an option. Probably, yeah, we have several continuations after that. I think the easiest is knight f3. Or even d takes c3. D takes c3 should be always a question, because how about if he captures the pawn? But with this we met already several times. Knight takes c3, knight c6 for example, knight f3, and probably we will have a good chance to punish him. Maybe kind of e6. And okay, castle, bishop e7, bishop f4, and And okay, castle, for example, rook fd1, and white has a great pressure for the pawn. The pawn can't move because we control with too much. That's why the c8 bishop can't develop. And also, knight b5 will be a nice maneuver. It's a really, really nice maneuver to d6. Okay, so this is simply fine. Good compensation here. So that's why d3. Now we can understand this. Moreover, with queen e2 he even loses a tempo. But okay, queen d3, no problem, because with some moves we also have counterplay. And also he takes the pawn. He takes the pawn. That was his idea, to keep the pawn up. But the move after queen e3, which is still an interesting way to keep the tension, doesn't hurry to take back the d3. Yeah, knight a6 coming after that, because knight is going towards c5. So for example, knight f3, knight c5, and he's extremely active here. So yeah, he has a great counterplay. Yes, this we don't want to allow. Knight d2 is still, which is a bit more challenging, because knight c5 and then knight e4. But also knight b3. But okay, here is starting a very nice variation with knight d6 check. So this is the point of the whole play. We have a kind of counterplay here. King d8, because of course if he takes, it's a brilliant discover check and win the black queen. So knight d6 check, king d8, knight takes f7, king e8, knight d6 check, and just perpetual checks. But why? Everything is hanging, it's very funny. Knight takes h8, knight takes a1, and finally we are a piece up, piece down, so black has a piece up, and knight c2 is a threat also, so black is almost winning here. So keeping the perpetual check is okay. But okay, so this is the queen e3 variation. How about queen takes d3 instead? Queen takes e5. Yes, because if he wouldn't take this pawn, let's see, for example, knight c6 as a normal developing move, then we can play f4. So then I already protect with f4 the e5, and then knight f3, because why not protect the pawn? So e6, knight f3, and white is okay. Even no pawn down at all. So queen takes e5 is the only challenging move. Bishop e3 and e6. And let's see how is it going on. Knight f3 tempo and queen h5. If queen c7, so if he goes back to that square, which seems to be safer because the queen came from there, then c4, a little bit we are fighting for the central squares. d5. If he would play d6, then knight c3, development, bishop d7. Yes, why bishop d7? Because knight b5 otherwise is dangerous. Yes, so for example, if he would continue with a knight c6, which a normal knight move, then we can come with yeah, some kind of knight b5. Queen has to go maybe d8, b8, d7. Let's say this, and we have rook d1 or long castle. It's both of them are interesting. Maybe the developing castle is better a bit. And yes, now the d6 is hanging again. And the point is that he can't protect. So he's very undeveloped. Look, black pieces. Only these two knights are out. And white pieces, all pieces are active. So this is the big difference. That is why we have a great compensation. Okay, so this is the very important thing in chess, generally very important, not only in this variation, it's just generally. Okay, so yeah, so this is very good. Even if he attacks the queen or something like that, then we can also take it for check. Queen can also move, by the way, back, but knight d6 is also okay. And if he plays like bishop d6, queen d6, queen d6, rook d6, already better position because bishop pair and material equal. Okay, so that's why bishop d7, because now if knight b5 he would take it. So castle, bishop e7, and a4. Yes, both sides are following a normal plan. White is that who has pawn down, and he should find kind of counterplay, create something initiative, something pressure on him, like with this a4. Knight a6, a5, just go forward. Knight c8, and the queen just goes back to d2, because after knight a6 he wanted to jump here. So with this we have to be a bit more careful, and we want to keep the bishop pair also. So comeback is a completely acceptable move, because knight c5, bishop c2, and later I can come with b4. So we again have a great compensation for the material. For example, let's say he castles, and okay, first of all, when he doesn't have he castled and he doesn't have a knight on f6, the h7 square can be a bit weak. So we have several kind of continuation here. Maybe first of all knight b5 is okay, but any times we have to keep our eyes on these things. Now the Greek gift is not working, takes a knight g5, because his bishop can even take it, and it's just okay for him. So knight b5, queen goes somewhere, for example b8 again. It would be a very nice queen trap after queen c6, because knight fd4, queen a6 only square, and knight c7, and okay, not queen trap because he can take on c4 yet, but he lost the a8 rook. So queen b8, and also something normal move, maybe b4, chase away the knight to a6. Now he can't come with a6, yeah, so it was a good idea to attack. And now something normal move, for example rook fd1, come with this also, and white looks nicely placed. Okay, great. So let's go back. This was the d6. Let's see the d5. Black also tries to get kind of activity for it, because as we saw before, even if he has a pawn up but space disadvantage, he can have some problems. Bishop takes b6, a takes b6. Yeah, because if queen takes b6 instead, then c takes d5, bishop e7, castle and knight c3, and however, black has the bishop pair and the position is opened, but white is so active, he can't come with the bishops properly. Generally, he should play e takes d5 and open up the position, but look, after knight d5, we have a brilliant knight full of threats. We can even gain back the bishop pair also, I mean take the e7 bishop and no bishop pair for black. So it's extremely active. If he doesn't take, then also not good, because what can he do? Knight d7, then d takes e6. Knight a6, then maybe I can play kind of active move like knight a4, because I had to avoid the knight c5. So these moves I like to avoid. And white is good. So that's why a takes b6. Yeah, because why should we take it? Because if we would play the c takes d5 normal move, he would like to take back with the knight. And okay, it says, okay, I give back the pawn, but I gain the bishop pair. And now white is not so active. So bishop e7 or bishop b4 check, castle quickly, bishop e6. And if coming out a general position, a normal position, black also consolidate himself and finish the development, then we can say that it is slightly better for him, because the bishops are extremely strong together. So that's why bishop b6 still the best version. A takes. It's also strange because double pawn structure, but open the a file and he hopes something. And if c takes d5, then queen c1. So this was the point why he wanted to keep the queen on the c file to give this check. Now white has to play queen d1, otherwise there is no any point there. And yeah, queen takes d1, but of course now we have to think on queen takes b2. We couldn't keep the queens because bishop d1 could have been met by... first of all, queen takes b2 is also seems to be dangerous, but bishop b4 check is also extremely unpleasant. So it's almost losing for white already. And also king e2 is not working because queen takes... Even the b2 I can also, but then knight b d2 yet. And white is safe, but of course the rook is hanging for free. And here we don't have enough attack for it. So queen d1, and let's see queen takes b2. Queen takes b2 is a little bit greedy, but it's not clear why. Castle and bishop c5. But of course we have to say some words about it. How about would be queen takes a1? But after queen takes a1, the queen will be trapped, because at first sight black seems to be completely winning with the rook and the pawn up. But now coming the excellent queen c2 tempo, because the bishop is hanging right now, knight a6 and bishop a4 check. First chase away his king from the center, so he can't castle already, and then knight c3, and the a1 queen is trapped. So this is his main problem here. He won the rook, but his king is in the middle, so even if materially he is not worse, also his king is in the middle, and that is a big problem. For example, knight b4, queen b3, and white is winning because queen takes f1, king takes, but what about with his king? We have many attacks and pressure there. Okay, so let's see bishop c5. So sometimes we can't be so greedy. Knight b d2, developing, and e takes d5. Bishop takes d5 and castle. Very normal move. Finally white also finished the development. Knight e4, come with another piece. Still black has a pawn up and bishop pair. Moreover, although he has two pawns here, g6. He would like to open the back rank and maybe an extra square of the queen to come back sometimes if requiring. At first sight actually it's a strange move, but let's see if, for example, if he would play knight c6 as a completely normal developing move, then rook b1, queen a3, rook b3. So now, for example, if the pawn would be on g6, the queen could come back to g7. That is the big difference. Rook b3, queen a4, and then after rook fg5, we have knight fg5. We have a strong attack because first of all we open up the diagonal for the queen here. Bishop f7, and even the rook can also come to the third rank. So in practical, I can say practically it's almost a winning position in a practical game, because white has so many threats. He has several problems here. Let's see, for example, if he would play like h6, like attack the knight, then how can we continue? Knight takes f7, rook takes f7, and queen h5. So now the f7 is hanging. He has to play kind of knight d8 to protect, but we continue the pressure with rook f3, queen e8, just protected himself, and continue with queen g6. So we completely pinned him in everything, and now we have an excellent threat, knight f6. And he can't, it's a check queen, it's a fork. He can't take with the rook because pinned by the bishop, can't take with the pawn because pinned by the queen. So seems to be almost a hopeless position for black. So let's continue with g6, that's why. Knight fg5, so we continue the same. So now if rook b1, the queen could go back to g7, and he kind of safe move. The black king is also, let's say, okay. So knight fg5 and knight c6. Yes, because if h6 now, always this knight fg5 is a typical move, but here we can also feel that we can continue the attack there. Knight takes f7, rook takes, bishop takes, king takes, queen d5 check. So unfortunately here we couldn't continue the pressure on the pin, because queen f3, then he can play maybe bishop f5, or queen can also go back to g7 and he's even safer. Now we ask his king to come out a bit, queen d5 check. There is no bishop e6 because queen b7 and he lost the rook. So king g7, knight takes c5, b takes c5, rook a e1. Now materially still black is better because two pieces, a knight and the bishop for the rook, but his king is weak and he's undeveloped. We are threatening with rook e7 and checkmate soon. So he plays knight c6, but we have another penetration square, the e8, which also, also a big problem for him, because queen g8 will come, threatening with rook c8, queen d7 also. So yeah, the black king is simply too weak. Okay, so this was the h6, knight takes f7, it's even faster. So knight c6, black should also continue the development as quick as possible. But of course, white's attack doesn't stop yet. So knight takes f7, rook takes f7, because if queen e4 instead, then he really has to be careful always about the discovered checks. So knight fd6 check, king g7. Okay, we didn't have a winning knight move, or a much better one. And now coming a really surprising move for me, but maybe that is the best, rook b1. A very cool-blooded move, because we can feel that we don't have any break, and materially we are also not worse. Our knights are excellent, so we just we bring the rook. Rook d8, queen takes d4, bishop takes, and just come back with bishop b3. and also white is minimum slightly better. Because, yeah, now the bishop pair doesn't matter because anytime I can take it. Bishop can't come out because the b7 pawn is hanging. So his situation is simply hard here. Okay, so rook takes f7. Knight g5, continue this plan. Knight d8. Yeah, he has to protect as much as possible. Now I can continue to pressure on pin, but it's always depend on the current position. Of course, if I have option for this, I don't hurry to take on f7. By the way, how about bishop f7? King f7 similar like before queen d5. Now it's a bit different. I can't come so quickly. So takes. Rook fe1. Now the e7 is just protected. So he can maybe play a safe move like queen d4. And no any winning chance there. Okay, so one tempo, because of the development, can be decisive. So knight g5, but, okay, he didn't play h6 like in the previous, so I use out that. He didn't play h6, so I try to punish him with that. Knight d8. Queen f3, okay, queen g7. Yeah, bishop f5 would be still a logical continuation, but here I can also take on f7. I think we can start with the knight also. Doesn't matter. King takes and queen takes b7 and winning. It's completely winning. Great. Lost the rook. So two, even if he has bishop pair, he has two exchange down, and that is decisive. So bishop f5 was finally a normal developing move, but then the b7 will be unprotected. Okay, so queen g7, that's why. And here still I no need to rush at all, so just play a simple rook a d1 and come with the last piece, and white is good. We just say that we have a great initiative for the piece, but still this is a game. We have to calculate accurately. Without calculate accurately, we can't do anything. Of course, it's part of the chess, but we just say that generally this is a good position for white. So this was the queen takes b2, which was a little bit greedy, and queen takes d1 would be more solid. King takes. Why we take with the king? Because we protect the pawn. So we can take it back. Bishop c5. D takes e6. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. F takes. And simply rook e1 with a nice unclear position. We can just say that, okay, not those kind of unclear, which is a double-edged fight, just, how to say, yeah, it's approximately equal, but he has a weakness on e6, but he has bishop, so it's just say it's a normal position. Alright, so this all was if the queen goes back to c7 after knight f3, and let's see how about the queen h5. Knight bd2 and knight c6. How about if he would come immediately in the center with d5? Long castle, knight c6, h3. Also, we have pawn down, so we try to create kind of counterplay. Bishop e7, g4, queen g6, queen e2, of course don't trade queens, but bishop c2 will be pretty unpleasant. So for example, if castle, then bishop c2 and his queen is in trouble. Maybe we trap it. Bishop g5, pawn g5 also good, or bishop g5 and win, but yeah, if bishop g5 still he can get two pieces for that. Much better to play with the pawn. So the queen is trapped. So that's why f6 gives him some, give himself some escaping square. Knight d4, knight takes d4, bishop d4, bishop d7, and after f4 we start the e5, so we can also say that we have a really good compensation for the material, for the pawn. Okay, so d5 also doesn't make any big problem for white, so let's see how about knight c6. Long castle. Usually this long castle is a good strategy, and knight a5. And now we should try to get some activity like knight e4, knight b3, a takes b3, d5, rook h1. Rook h1, what a smart move. Yes, there is checkmate on d8, so he can't take it. Bishop b6, a takes b6, knight e5, so activity is very important. And if he would play rook a1 check, this is losing because king c2, and suddenly the rook and the queen is also hanging, both. Also can't play d takes e4 because of the checkmate. So queen h6 check, that's why I come out by check. King b1, now we already controlling the a file, so that's perfect. Bishop e7, queen b5 check, king f8, knight g3. And we also can say we have compensation for the material, for the pawn. His king is in the middle, his bishops are passive, I can win back the b6 pawn anytime, so this is a completely playable middle game.